Good evening and welcome to a concurrent meeting of our City Council Manager Workshop and our EDA special meeting. So procedurally, I want to thank City Clerk Sint for her wonderful guideline on how to run concurrent meetings. So I am calling first our City Council Manager Workshop to order, and I will ask for a roll call. Clerk Sint.
Councilmember Lee.
Present.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Here.
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
I'm here as well. Thank you. Council members, would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve our agenda for the City Council Manager Workshop. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, I am going to switch my hat, and I now am going to open up, call to order, our Maplewood Economic Development Authority special meeting. And City Clerk Sint, I'll ask for the roll call for our EDA meeting.
Commissioner Lee.
Present.
Commissioner Villavicencio.
Here.
Commissioner Cave.
Here.
Commissioner Juniman.
Here.
President Abrams.
I am here as well. Thank you very much. Commissioners, would someone like to make a motion to approve our agenda for tonight?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve our agenda for the EDA meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We also have July 28th, 2025 Economic Development Authority special meeting minutes that we need to vote on. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve the minutes for our July 28th, 2025 Economic Development Authority special meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And now, council members and commissioners, we have two meetings open simultaneously, and I am going to turn this over to Ms. Parr. There you go.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor, members of the EDA and City Council. We are back tonight. We're excited to come back with Brianne Kennedy from Thrive Consulting. We are getting ready to wrap up the Economic Development Strategic Plan and wanted to bring her back one more time to talk through it. As you recall, your last meeting, we had a few tweaks, additional tweaks that were made to the plan, and we think we're now at a point where we can talk about next steps. So we'll kind of wrap it up and talk next steps, which is, I think, the most exciting part of all of it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brianne.
Welcome, Brianne.
Good evening, Mayor, President, members of the Council and EDA. I'm Brianne Kennedy now. I'm back to you with a brand new last name. And it's my, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here one final time. Really, this is the culmination of several months of work we've had with you directly to come to a strategic alignment amongst yourselves and also staff directive to move forward with next steps on the development of your economic development plan and work, frankly. And so really this plan was putting together priorities, mission, vision, values for your Economic Development Authority for the purposes of growing your tax base, increasing investment in residential property, and providing resources that are newly available and additional resources that could be available in the future to invest in residential neighborhoods, remove blight, and increase your tax base through the development of undeveloped property. So just a little retrospective as to where we've been. We started in February and March with talking about mission, vision, values. We came and reviewed strategies and actions in May, and last month you reviewed the implementation plan and budget impacts for those recommended strategies. So tonight we ask for you to kind of accept the report and move forward, have staff move forward to implementation of your plan. So the full plan document is included in your packet. We're not going to go through the full plan document. Danette did that pretty well last month. So we're just going to remind you of what the immediate action steps are coming through for the 1 to 3 year kind of short-term actions, and then what budget impact that has as you move forward to your next item, which is your budget discussion. Okay, so the 3-year priority actions, again, we've discussed these at length. They're in the report as well, but I'll just focus on the first 2 here, which is to create and approve a revolving loan housing rehab and construction fund for detached homes. So this includes rehab dollars for individual owners of single-family homes or townhomes to invest in their properties, but it also could include the construction of new homes on vacant lots. The second is to create a fund for strategic land acquisition, demolition, and redevelopment opportunities. So as these opportunities come up in the city to either purchase or rehab or acquire property for future redevelopment, having a resource available for those sort of opportunistic acquisitions is an important piece of this overall structure. It also allows you to pursue grants. If you have matching funds, it allows you to leverage outside resources. And so that's a big component of this. Of course, we talked about the need to update your comp plan. We threw a number in there, exact amount to be determined in terms of getting proposals and solicitations, but we wanted to make sure there was enough in there. So that exact number will vary based on the actual proposals that you get back. And then also considering policy amendments related to your zoning to facilitate easier development, particularly in areas that have large underutilized surface parking lots. So particularly the North End area, really taking a look at that land use and whether or not different land uses could be considered in those underutilized parking lots. Talking about looking at RFPs for the Moose Lodge property is in there. Developing a small area plan for the area around Maplewood Mall, looking at how to evaluate the different land uses, transportation, sewer, and water needs in that particular area to facilitate the redevelopment and or infill development. And as well as just kind of putting together some materials that show what areas are of focus for Maplewood and what opportunities exist in the development community. So that's just kind of a summary of your priority actions. Again, these are the ones that we would think could be accomplished in 1 to 3 years if given the resources to pursue these things. It was also, the idea is that you would look at this at least every 3 years, perhaps every year would be better, and make sure there's still strategic alignment and that it's your economic development strategy is doing what you want it to do, particularly if there's council elections or new members to the EDA, really looking at this and ensuring that alignment on an annual basis or at least every 3 years. So this, again, it's the same actions, but really talks a little bit about the budget and the source of funds. The important thing to note here is that there's a lot of outside resources. In addition to your LAHA resource, which is a new resource through the Metro sales tax that the city is being given or levied, and a check is being given to the city for housing resources. It's a new resource, so really this plan kind of speaks to how to use that resource, but also leveraging outside funds like Met Council LCDA grants, reevaluating your TIF fund, and then also looking at an EDA levy. Again, one of the things that is important and really is rooted in this plan is saying if you want to leverage those outside opportunities, having a resource for matching funds and for opportunistic acquisitions or blight removal or demolitions is an important component of this. And so this kind of assigns which strategic actions could be funded with which source. Some of the sources are restricted to certain actions. And so we've aligned kind of where it makes sense to use different sources for different strategic actions. And so, sorry about that. So in terms of next steps, tonight we review and accept the report and the plan, and we move forward to priority implementation, and then consider how the 2026 budget could impact and enable that work. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and of course, staff is available as well too, so thank you.
Council members, does anyone have any question for Brianne? Thank you. I don't see any question. Oh, Councilmember Juniman.
Well, this is a little late, but it's a stylistic question, actually, where we're talking about, gotta find the page. We're nimble and we're all that, then we say respect. We should say respectful if we're going to be consistent.
Okay.
It finally hit me. It took me all this time of reading it before I went, wait, that sounds bumpy.
No problem. The important part is we got the Maplewood leaf. We
Yes.
found the correct leaf.
Yes.
And have incorporated it. No, I will make that change, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Anything else? That was pretty simple. No,
All
there
right,
isn't
thank
anything
you.
else. Mr. Sable.
But before you depart us, I would just want to say how much I appreciate your professionalism and your work with us. I remember when I called you and I said, "Do you do this and how does it work?" And you were as much of a guide to me and through this process. So I just want to say how much I appreciate all that went into this. And I just want to forecast, I know that Ms. Parr and I were talking earlier today, and you're going to see your first action item at your next city council meeting on September 8th. So I don't know if you want to
Exciting.
share more on that or not.
Yes, we are very excited. Thank you, City Manager Sable. We will be bringing to the City Council on the 8th the actual housing rehab program. You have seen in a workshop previously some high-level conversations about it, and we've got the details now. And then we will be coming back before the EDA at the 22nd, that meeting, to actually authorize, if appropriate, to authorize the agreement with NeighborWorks to help us conduct this important program going forward.
Wonderful, that's exciting. Thank you. And
you're
Brianne, thank
welcome,
you.
And it's been my pleasure, so.
Thank you for helping
hopefully
us
I'll
go
get
through
to
this
see your
whole
faces
process.
again. You're welcome.
All right, next we have our EDA budget discussion. And I take it, Mr. Rube, this is going to be your topic. If it has to do with money, it's got to be Mr. Rube.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, President, members of the EDA and council. Tonight, we're going to discuss the EDA budget for 2026 and look into the future as well. The purpose of this discussion is to explore anticipated revenues and expenditures for the EDA. We thought, talking to City Manager Sable and Community Development Parr, we thought it'd be good to bring up several different scenarios for our council and the EDA to review. So on the screen right now is the basic spreadsheet that you saw back in July of kind of a starting point that we could go to. So hopefully you can all see this on your screens clear enough. So this first one, like I said, is the original one. The first scenario that I'm going to move to is including a 2% levy. It's approximately $636,000. As you go through and you'll see at the bottom, just wanted to highlight right off the bat that there's kind of a color coding system. So every time something changes, any kind of figure in here, if we're in the red zone, it means we're under $4 million. If we're between 4 and 5 million, it's in yellow, and over 5 million is in green. And the purpose for that is to get a good idea of if we're at $5 million, we can do a substantial impact on the community and helping with redevelopment. As I mentioned, the $636,000 is there. There's also a line for LAHA funding here, and there's an asterisk there because there are some restrictions that apply to this funding, as well as the TIF pooling that council worked on getting. So take a look at, those are all the revenues that we have going down into the expenditures. We have some funds set aside for wages, professional services that interfund loan that was from back in 2019 that needs to be paid off. That loan, as a reminder, is between the EDA and the Sanitary Sewer Fund, and is set up at a 3% interest rate. The LAHA projects, we set that in here just so you can kind of see. You'll notice up above here, there's 221,000. We anticipate expending it out within 2 years and carrying forward that way, just to get an idea of some of the revenue and expenditures with the LAHA funding, and that we have to use it for restricted purposes.
Mr. Rube, can I ask a question? Because I think that there are restrictions on the LAHA funding. We have, is it 4 years from the time that we get the funds that, and I take it because we will be getting funds every year from the Metro City, or the Metro City's sales tax, that we have to spend that money within 4 years. Is that correct? Ms. Parr?
Madam Mayor, that is correct. So it's somewhat revolving, as you just indicated, so you have to kind of look at it that way. But the funds must be spent by December 31st of the 4th year after the aid was received.
Okay, great. Okay, Councilmember Cave.
And on the same thing, the LAHA funding, just so I'm aware again, you have it at 587,000 every year. Isn't it, is that guaranteed that, or can it go up or down?
Thank you, EDA members and council. It can fluctuate, so it is based off of the taxes and that. We put that in here just because 587,000 is what we'll receive this year. However, we do anticipate it going up from year to year, but we don't know exactly what that is. So we tried playing it with the more conservative figure and keeping it pretty straight going across the board.
I get that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So ultimately, once we take the expenditures and revenues and the current fund balance that we have, at the bottom there for the fund balance as of 12/31, you'll see where we're at from year to year. As Ms. Parr mentioned, we have 4 years to spend it. However, we would like to implement some of that spending sooner, just to make sure that it's making an impact on the community as soon as we possibly can. So once we have those funds, we can spend them. So looking at the very bottom, as I mentioned, the red, yellow, green area, it would take until about 2033 in order to have over $5 million worth of funds to actually contribute to a major project that can help with the community. So that's the first example. Second example is very similar. It has a 2%. The only difference is adding in a transfer of $1 million from the general fund reserves. We are above where we need to be based off of policy on the general fund reserves. So this would give us an opportunity to do a one-time transfer out of the general fund to help the EDA. And as you can see now, to get to that $5 million mark to be ideal, we're at 2029 instead of, I believe it was the 2033. So that bumps that up significantly. The next scenario is at a 1% levy. That's $318,000 approximately, keeping all the expenditures and everything else the same. You can see at the bottom, it's in red completely. We would never get to that $5 million mark. So it would be hard to do anything substantial with those funds. Also, the next one is the 1% as well, with the general fund cash transfer of $1 million. That too, the closest we get is about $4 million on that. The third option is going the opposite direction, going up to a 3% levy, which is about $954,000. With that, same, everything else for revenues are the same, expenditures are the same. We get up to 2029 to get to that $5 million mark. And then the last scenario is if we're at 3% and $1 million transfer in, we would be at the $5 million mark by 2027. So that would give council and EDA an opportunity to help with one of those redevelopment projects. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council or EDA has.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Sable.
Thank you, Mayor, Madam President, and members. You know, I realize, I recognize that we went through this fairly quickly, and so we're going to send this out after the fact, included in the packet, and also for you to think about. This is that you don't have to make a decision today, but we thought it was a helpful framing of the range of choices that you have. So there is the ability to do a levy, and it's you could do 1, 2, 3, but you could also do increments in between that. It could be 1.5, 2.5, those kinds of things. But we wanted to showcase sort of if your desire is to build a fund balance that gives you tools to take on a sizable project. It requires any number of investments, but the ability to do a potential transfer in is a helpful component, and the ability to have a levy dollar at a certain amount really does give you some resources to do things that you've outlined that you would like to see done. So we will share this after the fact, and there aren't any decisions that are required tonight as part of this conversation.
Thank you. Councilmember Cave.
Just a couple comments, just from hearing the prior discussion about, having, to proceed with our EDA strategic plan, we kind of need money in our coffers here. And we're talking like, I'm seeing this and it makes a lot of sense, Joe. Thank you for pointing out the 3 colors too, because really to get to the green, it looks like a lot of money. But we're gonna need money to do things, and we also need money for matching. And that money gets sucked out pretty quick. And if we were to do something, huge, I'm not talking just little projects, but if we're gonna do something in the north end, $5 million isn't the biggest amount of money, is it? I mean, and that would be taking the whole thing, on one project for, it's not that much money. So, I'm just looking at the different scenarios and I'm thinking in my head now, this is the first time seeing them, but I'm just kind of playing around with just the fact of the transfer of the
Excess.
yes, sorry, of the general fund. That's also something that would be great in the EDA. It bumps it up quicker, and it's a great tool, but it's a 1-year tool. It helps us, but in my mind, I don't want to, I want to look at something substantial as a percentage, because that's what's going to get us to, our projects are going to be happening faster than we know, and we want to be able to handle. To me, I would like to handle as many as we can. And you can't just do one and then just sit on it and go, we have another 10 years till we do another one. So those are just my thoughts with this.
Thank you for that. And council members, I'm going to be asking each one of you kind of your thoughts about this too, because this is a really unique opportunity where the legislature has provided a regular funding source for us to do meaningful work when it comes to development in our community. We've had a number of speakers, thank you for bringing them in, Ms. Parr, from Habitat, also from the county, looking at the loan program as another opportunity, looking at how do we really help the north end. And it's going to take resources. And so my inclination, and I'm certainly glad I want to be able to look at these numbers a little more closely, but we have we are sitting, we've poised ourselves, thank you to staff, getting us here with our EDA, where we are going to have resources where we can help in the redevelopment of our community. And I'm leaning towards a combination of a levy and a transfer from the general fund. And I want to look at the numbers and see, but we have, we're sitting ready to go, and we need to figure out, kind of the gas pedal and how fast we can get there. Because you're right, to all of us sitting up here, $5 million is an awful lot of money. When it comes to redevelopment and investment in our community, it's not. And so we want to do this, and I think in a very intentional way. But we also want to seize the opportunity. We don't want to fritter this away, and especially with that kind of the umbrella on all of this, that the LAHA money that's coming in, we have to spend that in a revolving door, and in constantly being reinvesting that into our community. And how do we do that in the best possible way? So, Councilmember Juniman, I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts, just roughly in terms of, the levy and a transfer, or kind of what are you thinking?
Middle of the road levy and a transfer.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Councilmember Lee, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. I think for me, it's, waiting the 10 years is a very long time, and I think seizing the opportunity is important. In 10 years, we're going to be even more developed than what we are right now. But what's important for me is, as I'm looking at our preliminary property tax levy, I'm thinking about sustainability, and I think finding the fine balance is going to be important. And so I like the idea of a transfer from our fund balance into the balance there. But I think the levy is where, I think if we can get some more idea of what that looks like, because I think every dollar does matter to our constituents, and finding that balance is going to be very important. But the 10-year option is a very long time, and if we're going to take some action, I want to take some action sooner than later. I think then we'll get better opportunities as we're coming up on it, and we'll be better prepared. So,
Thank you. And I think one thing, too, as we continue with these budget discussions, it will be very helpful once we start looking at impact on our residents, and we will know more about that, because that's going to be critical. We have to intentionally find a good balance that what really works for our community. Councilmember Villavicencio, your thoughts?
I think my thoughts are similar to everyone's here. For myself, I would prefer more information on the levy and the effect on that. But I think it's got to be a combination of both.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rube, I'm going to turn it back to you. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Lee.
just a really quick question, Mayor. On the transfer piece of it, earlier you showed some transfer later on in the time. Does it matter where the fund balance, the $1 million, sits in our general fund balance or into the EDA balance? I mean, what is the benefit of moving it over? Because we know it's always going to be there. We can always transfer it at a later time. Any particular benefits?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and EDA members. If it's transferred into the EDA, it's just dedicated to that point for EDA functions. We can use the general fund reserves that are above the 50% for other items such as capital, for equipment projects, building updates and that. So there's a wide variety of things that we could use that for. Once it gets transferred over to EDA, then it is dedicated for the EDA priorities,
Yeah.
if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the analogy of don't pay your bill until it's due. Like how do you keep your cash flow until it's due? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
The beauty of it is that this is in excess of
Yeah.
what is required.
Yeah.
So a lot of things have kind of fallen in line for us to be able to be in this position and make these decisions that really are going to benefit our community. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
It's also a little, we have to kind of sort this through, but we've got great staff that are advising us on this. So, Mr. Rube, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, EDA. The other thing I wanted to mention is at the $636,000, I estimate it to be around $40 for a median household for the year. So ultimately, that breaks it down to about 77 cents per week if we did that $636,000.
Thank you. That's why you're the numbers guy.
Just estimates at this point.
We like that. Okay, anything else? Do you have a further presentation for us? Councilmember Cave.
And just going off what Chambry was saying, is this something, Mike, that you can put together so we can, because all the budget stuff is coming up now, I mean, with that general fund transfer excess, should we look at some options for it? Or can we look at options using it?
Thank you, Mayor and Madam President and members. Yes, the short answer is yes. So tomorrow morning, Mr. Rube and I will be sending out a summary of these charts
Okay.
so you can have them and so you can look at them. As I said, the decision point that you'll be asked to make a decision will be at the next meeting on September 8th.
Okay.
And so we'll give you a 2-week window to kind of look through and then kind of identify your landing spot, and then so you can pour over this. But we felt like it was important to sort of show. So we showed 6 options. In reality, there's probably 60 options that you could choose from, right? You can do, you know, 0.25% and 0.75%. And so we just want to give you a sort of an overall range, but we'll give you this sort of documentation, then we'll make sure that it's in the packet that gets posted tomorrow morning as well for the people who are watching. So,
Okay, and also the dollar amount that it's going to be each.
yeah, potential impact for
Yeah,
each one.
That would be great. Thanks, Joe.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Council members, any other questions concerning the EDA budget discussion?
We need to vote on the plan. We need to vote on the plan.
We need to vote on the plan for the economic development strategy.
Oh. No, I don't think we do. I think,
Says no action is required.
needed.
except this says,
Oh,
is that right?
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor, Madam President. So the City Council does not have to act on the adoption, but the EDA authority does. So in your capacity as EDA commissioners, well, we would entertain a motion to approve the Maplewood Economic Development Strategy document.
And I have to say that this was included in City Clerk Sint's cheat sheet. Thank you for pointing that out to us. So we will find the motion on, under the EDA tab, page 3 of 51. Would someone like to make that motion?
Motion to approve the Maplewood Economic Development Strategy.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the Maplewood Economic Development Strategy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Let's see. All right. Okay. We have now concluded the EDA portion of our concurrent meeting, and so therefore, since we've finished the EDA business, I will adjourn our EDA meeting, and we'll go back to just having our workshop, and we are now on unfinished business concerning the budget workshop, and we are, it's the 2026 budget workshop with public comment. Mr. Rube, do you have anything else that you'd like to say?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I have a lot of exciting slides for you to see and review tonight before the public comment. So starting off, just as a quick overview, we'll be looking at the preliminary budget for 2026, the capital improvement plan for 2026 to 2030, discussing strategies, goals, and challenges, and then the timeline and process that you've seen before. For the preliminary property tax levy, the preliminary levy for 2026 is $34,522,856, which is an increase of $2,699,200, or 8.48%. So what changed with the levy? A good majority of it has to do with general fund payroll increases. So the majority of the general fund is made up of wages for employees. We are a very service-based city, and so that's where the majority of our expenses come from. That also does include some additional staff based off of the Bostrom report for public safety, as well as the SAFER grant. We're not quite sure. We haven't heard, I don't believe, if we've received that yet or not. However, if we do receive it yet this year, we are responsible for 25% of their wages for the first year, 25% for the second year, and it's either 60 or 65 for the third year, and then fully on. So it's just kind of planning for that as well. And then as well as maintenance employee for public works for partial year. So that's the majority of those. There's increase in the ambulance operations. As we've discussed, it's one of those that the revenue does not cover all the expenditures. So there's an increase there, some contractual services, internal services, which covers the cost of IT services, as well as the vehicles that are used throughout the city, because those are run through internal services fund, which is the fleet fund. Adding funding for the election equipment, that is something that we'll have to purchase most likely in 2026. or shortly thereafter. So we're making sure that we have the funding available. City Clerk Sint has some of that information that she's relaying on to us as we know, but that's the estimate as of right now is $210,000. Increase in capital funds, part of that is about $60,000 of an increase to the funding for the community center, and then about $100,000 towards general building maintenance and improvements that are necessary. Supplies and other commodities. And then there's actually a decrease in some of our debt service obligations because those funds, some of those debt service bonds were paid off. So we're done with that. And then we increased some revenue as well. So the levy history over the last 10 years is as follows. And with the 8.48% for 2026, it averages about 5.8% over the 10 years. Here's a summary by category of the 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan. The total of the plan is $65,024,550. Of that, 72% of it is going towards streets. That $46.9 million is 72% of it. And then as you can see, between redevelopment and buildings, that's our lowest category. In the buildings, it's only $1.48 million. And that kind of is a good show of what the investment has been back into our building assets over the years from past years, but as we go forward, it's very minimal considering how expensive buildings are to maintain. And then here is a list of the 2026 CIP plans. The biggest items on here are the Gladstone redevelopment and the Harvest Park. Both of those are over $1 million or more. And with both of them, if we do move forward with those, we would need to issue debt because we do not have any kind of cash balance funding for that right now. This is a continuation of the 2026 CIP plan. The biggest one here is the street improvements at $11.9 million, which is about 63% of the total expenditures for 2026. So uncertainties, you've seen this before as well. The federal government, state government, not knowing exactly what's going to happen and moving forward. Union contracts, we are in the middle of those right now, so we have a little bit of idea, but there's still more to go. Inflationary impacts, tariffs, the EDA on what council decides and the EDA wants to do with that. Tax increment financing, again, the SAFER grant that we do have budgeted for about 25% for those new firefighters. And then lease revenue, we have one lease actively in place and then one other pending.
Councilmember Cave has a question.
I could wait till you're done. You just have one more slide.
Sounds good, thank you. This is similar to the exact same budget process and timeline that you've seen before. On there, I believe we're looking at new dates for the city building tour. So when we take a look at that $1.4 million, we'll see that with all of our buildings, it's not a whole lot there. And then next up, we have the preliminary levy setting on September 8th, and then September 19th, the budget engagement at the Friday night fireworks. So with that, staff would like to get some feedback from council on the targeted tax levy that they'd like to see. Approval, or not necessarily approval at this point, but feedback on the 2026 CIP projects, and if there's any other policy things that council wants to discuss, or anything from there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions before turning over for open public comments.
Councilmember Cave, Nike.
My question was with the ambulance fund. Do we have I know it was a big discussion earlier, and I'm just wondering where we're at with it right now.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The big thing with it, so there's multiple different ways that we can take a look at it. So in essence, we're keeping it as its own separate fund for accounting purposes, but at the end of the year, it'll be collapsed in with the general fund. So from that standpoint, we can see how it's still doing and how it's operating, almost like its own separate budget, but then for reporting purposes on the financial statements, it gets combined with the general fund.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
And I don't remember what page it's on, but it says in 2030, under redevelopment, there's $0 spent. And I was just wondering why that may be.
Do you want to repeat that?
So, under 2030, redevelopment, it says $0. I was just wondering why it said that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's just based off of what's currently planned in the CIP. This is just looking at a projection out of 5 years. So right now, the big focus is on 2026, but putting things on the radar for 2027 through 2030. So that's something that definitely will be updated as we get into 2026.
So it probably will change, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Rube? Mr. Sable?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So, one of the things that we had initiated earlier this year was to create a 10-year financial model. We've asked our financial advisors to do that. They are working through that right now, and they're going to be presenting to us later this fall on the 10-year financial plan. They're actually going to be the ones who recommend the ambulance fund be rolled into the general fund. We actually got that preliminary recommendation, and so you'll see that and actually vote on that later this year.
Okay.
Council, we don't have any action that's required, but staff really wants to hear direction on the policy decisions that are outlined in the presentation and attachments. And Mr. Rube, I think, is looking forward to hearing from us. I will say from my perspective, I think we are on the right track. I know we don't have in front of us kind of the proposed levies that our neighboring cities are looking at. I know that from the list that I have kind of put together, that we are certainly not at the top of the pack, and we are closer to the bottom of the pack. I'm sure that staff is going to be bringing that to us, but I'm hearing the same kinds of numbers from mayors as each city works through this. If you look at what we have, what staff has presented, it is really pretty moderate. There are things that we just don't control. And things that, we have, I really appreciate the fact that staff is thinking proactively about the community center and what that needs. I am looking forward to that 10-year build-out that will help us get better information. So I am confident in the numbers that we have been presented. I tend to be fiscally conservative. I'd like us, after, we ultimately do our max levy, if we can, based on additional information, if we can sharpen pencils and get that down lower. But the one thing about doing a max levy that we're required to do is that I don't want any surprises to come up and that, we haven't accommodated for that. I think staff has done a great job in helping us with that. So I'm comfortable with where we are right now, with the hope that with additional information, we can find some additional savings. We can pencil this down a little bit, but this is, we're not, I don't think we're even in the middle of the pack from what I am hearing. Mr. Sable, what are you hearing?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The city manager group has been talking about where we see preliminary levies coming in from neighboring communities, not only in Ramsey County, but and across the region. And I would agree. I've seen, I would say that we're in at least the bottom third within Ramsey County, if not even lower. And when you start to incorporate other, Dakota and Hennepin County cities, we're seeing similar positions where other cities are going to have higher impacts than us year over year.
And I think, too, I'm also looking for, in addition to that, looking at the 10-year plan, I'm also going to be interested in when staff can put together the impact on our residents so that we know what that's going to look like. That's one of those big numbers for me. So staff, anything else that you want to throw in here? Because staff really wants to hear some direction on the policy. Councilmember Cave.
You know, I would agree with everything you said. I know when we look at numbers, we also expect staff to sharpen their pencils and go back, and they know that. I think the hardest thing about the budget process right now is all the uncertainties. There's so many, and so it's like, everything is so fluctuating, so it's, you know, the numbers, you know, look good for what you have and for the tools that you have to implement everything in. And just waiting on, you know, the different uncertainties to plug them in to see a better picture. But I think what you're doing right now is really good.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who was next. Councilmember Villavicencio.
I think given the federal and the state government, I think we should, you know, try to be as conservative as we can in this regard. But I think it's hard for me to not mention the fact that I think we should just be, or I hope we can think of the Nature Center and, you know, a CIP project in the future for that at some point, and the importance of that asset to the city of Maplewood.
Thank you. I think I'll just throw in there, too, one of the things concerning the Nature Center, the Community Center, and even our parks is, I think, further discussion on the potential. We have talked about that, about some type of a percentage sales tax in terms of funding those kinds of things, because I agree with you. We've got wonderful assets in Maplewood, and how do we, but they're also regional assets. And so asking our residents to pay for regional assets seems a little bit out of balance. And if we can look forward, I'm looking forward to more discussions about that and how we might be able to fund those regional assets so that we can continue to enjoy them, and then our residents obviously can enjoy them as well. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I think something that I'm thinking about, and when I see these numbers, is looking back at our tax levy history, you know, from 3%, our average is probably lower then, but the reality is in the last 5 years here, the cost of doing business and inflation has really kicked up. And so I think that's something that we have to really take into consideration when we're looking at these numbers. And I agree with what my fellow council members have said. I think the 10-year plan is going to really help us think through what that looks like. Long-term planning is going to be critical. But I want to say that being, for someone who is just your typical citizen being on here now as a council member for the last 3 years here, our council and staff has been very mindful of our budget and has been very mindful of what we put on the book for our constituents. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And so we're not, I hear a lot, oh, we're paying so much taxes here. We are a city of service, and we excel at that. That's what we do well at. So I want to just remind our folks in our city and our constituents of that.
Thank you. Councilmember Cave.
I wanted to talk about, or just bring it up for Mike. We talked about the sales tax, you know, we brought it up at 2 meetings ago, and I think it is a good idea to keep in our discussion. And, you know, you mentioned parks. I also wanted to think about with public safety, with the East Metro being a regional asset to help out also with our public safety. So whatever one makes the most sense, however we can do it, I think it brought up an idea, and I think it's a great tool to be used however we can use it. So that was another way I would like to look at it.
Good. Anything else? Mr. Rube, does that give you enough direction from the council?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Okay.
His eyes glaze.
Okay. Now, with that, we have the opportunity for public comment. And I am certainly glad that we are doing this, because I really appreciate what you said, Councilmember Lee, that we are being very mindful. And there certainly is a lot of information on our website. It's almost information overload. If you get in there, council members, I would encourage you to get in there and poke around, and there is just reams of pages of information about our budget. It's a lot to process. But this, I think this next piece is very important, that we hear from our constituents and what they have to say. So with that, we are going to have an opportunity for public comment. I just want to remind people that we have rules of civility for the city council, boards, commissions, and our community. They are published on our agenda, and so I would remind anyone who wants to share. We are interested. We want to hear what you have to say about our budget, and you will have 3 minutes. What we normally do is we do not respond. This is our residents' opportunity to talk to us, to share with us their thoughts. And so we don't want to interrupt you. If you do have specific questions that staff can answer, that will happen at the end of the 3 minutes. This really is a public comment opportunity, and then if there are questions, we get to those after your 3 minutes. So with that, I'm going to open up our public comment. Do we have anyone signed up? Oh, okay. Is there anyone who would like to join us for public comment? Do you want to come up to the dia or the microphone there? And please sign in so that we have your name. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and welcome to our public comment.
Thanks. I'm Sharon Reineman. I live on Lakewood Drive, just south of Justin Allen Page Elementary. I moved into Maplewood in 2002, paid $330,000 for a house, and paid $2,400 in tax. Our latest assessment is
Do you want to, this is being, hold on for 1 second, just so that you speak a little bit louder, because then our resident, anyone who's watching can
Okay.
hear better.
You got a problem with that mic. You got to have it more so you can right in your mouth. If your mic doesn't-
Okay. So today, our taxes are $7,800. Our value of our house is $508,000. So our taxes have gone up 325%. The value of my house has gone up only 54%. Something doesn't feel right. I just wanted to share that with you. I only got to check with one neighbor, and they are in the same situation. I actually went through the numbers with her as well, her numbers. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm a little sensitive about raising taxes. I would appreciate if you did a risk assessment, given what's going on with the tariffs. I know most of the budget is people costs, so that probably won't impact. But what happens if tariffs hit and the cost of the street repair and everything goes way up, okay? So just kind of what are you going to cut to stay within budget? And then just the average cost of our budget for the last 10 years has gone up 5.8%, but inflation is 3.15%. So you need to communicate the value of it. You know, you're going to raise the costs. What is the value you're providing? I learned from Mike over here that we have the most superior public service with police and fire and emergency response. I didn't know that. And so it would be good to communicate that. But going back to the first thing is I'm really concerned about my taxes going up and the value of my house is not balancing in my mind. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rube, do you have any responses?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I guess I don't know if there's a specific question there or not, but it is something that we can take a look at and do a comparison of the increases in that. So a big part of it of the increases have had to do with going from a paid per call fire department to a full-time fire department. So a lot of expenses there. Having now all these employees, all the fire and paramedics on staff 24 hours a day does have a significant cost impact to the city. And then adding additional firefighter paramedics each year as well to make sure that with our population, we're serving the community the best that we can and minimizing the response times.
I know, I just made one little note. A resident asked about risk assessment. What happens if the tariffs, increase significantly, and how are we positioned to respond to that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So there's a couple different things. So we do have a fund balance that is over 50%. So if we got into the position where we absolutely needed to do emergency repairs or something that couldn't be pushed off, we can use our fund balance. So it is between 41.6% up to 50% is what our target is, and we're above that. So that there's some fluctuation there. And then if it comes to other projects, like the street projects and that just get to be too expensive, we would look to Public Works to see if there's something that we could do. If there's a way either of pushing it out until prices maybe drop again, hopefully, or different ways to look at those projects.
Thank you. Mr. Sable?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and Councilmember. So I really appreciate the questions, and if there is something that drives costs over what we can afford, then we would obviously, we can stop and do mid-year budget adjustments and do things in the moment. But what we try to do is to forecast what inflation would be with some of our suppliers and our vendors and those things. So every time that they're get an increase, we're potentially at risk of that as well. So it's one of the items that we list as an uncertainty in our budget, and we try to plan for it as best we can. But it is something that we do worry about because we don't know what the answer is going to be ultimately until it happens. And so it's something that we continually monitor and watch out for, but we don't have a good answer for it in the moment.
Thank you. And thank you for coming. We really appreciate your comments. It helps us make better decisions. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at the public hearing? Please join us at the microphone. Do you want to sign in, please? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. City Manager. Of course, Mr. Darrow, Mr. Sable, Mr. Love, Ms. Parr, Mr. Rube. They run the city. Our Councilmember Seanberry Lee believes he's running the city with his staff, as he told me at the last meeting. All of these guys who are the management team here could have chosen to live in the city. They chose not to live in the city. They want to run the city. They don't want to pay the property taxes of the city. They want to run the city. They don't want to experience the services of the city. They all could choose to live here. The property taxes are too high for them. The services are too poor for them. The education quality for their kids are bad. Instead, we know Mr. Sable wants to, he claims he lives in the city of Minneapolis. We do not know. We know that Ms. Parr lives in the city of Mendota Heights, the new North Oaks.
Mr. Berglund, I would remind you of the rules of civility that are included in our agenda. I believe that you are very familiar with them. And I would ask you to please focus on the issue before us, which is helping us make a decision about our tax levy. I will not permit you to attack our staff. If you would like to comment concerning the proposed tax levy and all of the materials that are on our website, I encourage you to do that. But this is not an opportunity to attack our staff. And if you continue to do that, I will rule you out of order.
Thank you, Mayor. You just burned a minute of my time with all that bamboozle talk.